For me, debt is owing someone as a result of their having given you something or as a result of you having taken something from them.
It's something you have to pay back, give back, because something was given to you, either as a physical object or a favor, and then you give it back.
Utang na loob, it translates very well into public service, because if you're in a position of leadership, if you're in a position of influence, you do have a debt to the people that you represent.
In Blood Debts, we tell the stories of choices and sacrifices to pay back what is owed and pay forward something of value. I'm your host, Lizelle Tenglao. On this podcast, we talk about one of the few through lines in people's lives, debt. You'll hear stories from the Filipino diaspora around how debt has impacted all aspects of life, from those in the medical field, the public service sector, to technology and the creative arts. As a journalist, I've spent more than a decade reporting on the financial aspects of debt in diverse communities. But many people carry debts beyond money.
Almost everything I do on a day-to-day basis is because of a sense of debt. I feel that I have a sense of responsibility to my family, to my friends, to my community, and that governs almost every decision I make.
In this episode, we talk to Joshua Ong Price, an election commissioner in Arkansas. We talk about what debt looks like in the public service space.
All right, my name is Joshua Ong Price. I am the election commissioner for Pulaski County, Arkansas. And I also have a history of working for the federal government for different agencies specializing in economic and community development. And I am fairly heavily involved in the nonprofit sector as well as local politics. You know, when you are making decisions that can affect tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people, it's definitely a responsibility that weighs on you, and you want to make sure you make the right decision. And so you do feel that sense of debt, in that these folks are relying on you to make the right decisions for them. So you want to make sure that you do your due diligence and represent them in the way that they would like for you to represent them, and make sure you put their best interests first. Well, I mean, utang na loob, it's a debt of gratitude. And I definitely feel that, let's start on a smaller scale. Like, I definitely feel that within my own family, right? I mean, it's as simple as that when you visit the Philippines, right, you have to bring pasalubong, right? You have to, there's certain things you have to do, show respect to your elders, to your family members. And I think that in a peripheral way kind of ties into utang na loob. But then I feel like also in the Filipino community, we use it as more almost like a you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours type thing. Like, because you did something for me, now you owe me a favor. Oh, I'm going to do a favor for you, and then I'm going to call in a favor at some given time. And I feel like sometimes in the Filipino community, we think like, because somebody did something for us, they're going to call in a favor later, and it's almost like hanging over your head. And I don't, and I could be wrong, but I don't think that's the spirit of what utang na loob really is supposed to mean. I take it more as let me use a personal example, and this is actually not within the Filipino community, but I when this happened to me, I took a very Filipino point of view from it, and I think I may have told you the story before, Lizelle, but my old boss, when I first started working for the federal government, we would travel all through the Mississippi River Delta region, 8 different states, 252 counties and parishes, and really everywhere we went, I was the only Asian American. There really were no Asian Americans present at any of these events. We'd meet with state senators, state representatives, mayors, different elected officials, sometimes even U.S. congressmen. And at every event, I would be the only Asian American there. And I just took it in stride. I'm there to work. I was doing communications, and I was more like worried about handling his talking points and wrangling the media and doing all that stuff, which I know you're very, very aware of too. So I was more like in the zone of getting work done. But then we would have downtime, driving back, in the car for 2, 3, 4 hours, or sometimes on a plane. And I remember one time we were driving back from an event, and he said to me, you did a great job today. You always do a great job. He said, but I just realized, he said, everywhere we go, you're the only Asian American in the room. You're the only one that looks like you. He said, how is that affecting you? Are you okay? And I said, oh, yeah, I'm fine. I said, I'm kind of used to it growing up in Arkansas. And he said, okay. He said, well, I just wanted to check because he said, as a white man, he said, I blend right in. And he said, I didn't know if people were treating you differently. He's like, these are very small rural areas. They probably never encountered an Asian American before. And I just wanted to make sure you were okay. If you had any issues, he's like, I would want for you to come tell me if anybody said anything to you. He said, because you're an important part of my team. I highly respect you. And if anyone ever says anything to you or shows any kind of disrespect or racism, I want you to alert me right away. And I said, well, no, that hasn't happened. I said, I'm used to it. I grew up in a small town in rural Southwest Arkansas myself. I know how to turn on my Southern accent when I need to and kind of make them laugh and blend in a little bit in that way, at least culturally, if not through my physical appearance. And he said to me, I think you're very smart. You're very talented. You're an invaluable part of my team. And he said, when we're in these situations, I just want you to know, I may not be able to get you a seat at the table, but I can damn sure get you in the room. And I do feel a debt of gratitude to him. I do. I feel utang na loob because this man did not have to. We are, yes, but from the same state, but in a lot of ways completely different in the way we were raised in our culture. But he went out of his way to not only make me feel comfortable and accepted in these situations, but to promote me, to tell the people, he's like, I've got the best digital comms director, in the state on my team, and would just always do whatever he could to promote me, to empower me, to encourage me. And when that's coming from someone who was a presidential appointee under Barack Obama, like you feel that, you take as a Filipino, I definitely took that in and I was like, wow, he didn't have to do this for me, but he did.
With one of the most important elections of our lifetime, Josh talks about the responsibility he feels in making sure everyone is able to vote and make their voices heard.
If you don't walk into a situation where you're in a position of leadership and you're representing citizens in your county, district, city, whatever, whether or residents, they don't have to be citizens per se. For voting, of course, you have to be a citizen to vote. But for residents in your county, whether it's on a state level, a county level, a local level, if you don't feel that the weight of that responsibility to these people that you're supposed to be serving, then in my opinion, you're in the wrong job. You're in the wrong job. You should go to bed stressed every night, saying, what am I not doing enough for the people I represent? Well, what else do I need to do to make sure they have access to this opportunity or this service? If it doesn't weigh on your heart heavily, I don't think you're in the right job. We talk about how certain presidents like Obama, he's in the White House for 8 years and his hair is all turned white. Your hair should turn white because you are taking on such a monumental responsibility. You are responsible for the rights and liberty and and access to opportunities, education, healthcare, etc., voting for thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people. That needs to weigh heavily on you. It needs to weigh heavily on your heart every single day. That is my blood debt. The people who selected me to be in this position, I owe them. They put me in this position so that I would do a good job for them, make sure that they have access to the polls and we have enough poll workers and our poll workers are staying safe and staying healthy. That's all a blood debt that I think in public service, it's very important because it reminds you why you're in that position. You are there to represent the interests of others and ensure that they have access to these rights and these government services and whatnot.
There are many sides to debt. This series intends to take you on a journey through defining and redefining debt through the stories of Filipinos in the diaspora. Upcoming stories from guests like Major General Antonio Taguba, rapper Ruby Ibarra are just a sampling of the journeys you'll hear along the way. That's all for this episode. Thank you for listening. To find out more about the series and upcoming episodes and resources, visit blooddebts.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Blood Debts is produced and hosted by me, Lizelle Tenglao. This series is a legacy project of the Filipino Young Leaders Program. Shout out to PhilPro Batch 8. This series is dedicated to all those who struggle to talk about uncomfortable issues. and for all those who ever felt overlooked. I see you, I hear you.